Hi, folks. Hope you're doing well today. Um. Anyway, yes. Sorry. Before we get into the subjects, it's just gone 11 p.m. on the 25th of the 5th, 2020. Right. The first thing I'll talk about is the car. Got it sorted now. The lights, the warning lights on the car have gone. Blinking pain in the butt, because when I first got the car, when we first checked the car out after I got it, I said to my friend, the oil is very dark. It needs to be replaced. He said, yeah. He said, well, we'll do it once the weather starts getting better. So, of course, his warning lights come up and he says, go and get that stuff, put it in your tank. So, stuff to put in the tank, I spent a good £40 on that stuff. Didn't work. Then he said, we're going to get the more expensive fuel. So he sent me down to the wrong garage, and he sent me down originally. He mentioned the wrong name of the fuel. So I put the petrol in instead of diesel. So I put the one in that he said. That then cost me £300. The more expensive fuel then cost me £81. It would be about £30 more for that fuel. Then I tried the fuel pumped out, the petrol pumped out. That's now caused a problem with the fuel gauge on the car. The car was filled up with diesel, and it was shown as only half full. It's filled up to the point where the diesel was coming out the top. When you fill it in. I did it like that. Took the hose out, put it back in, tiny bit more into it. It's coming out again. At that point it's absolutely full. Even when you take the hose out, you can still see the diesel sitting there. There you go, full to the point where you couldn't really put even a few more ladle spoons back in there to make it absolutely to the point where, as you put your cap on, there'll be diesel pouring out. Right? It's showing as half full because of the fact that the people that took the petrol out did something and caused that to happen. So it's not great. They've then told me wait until the tank has got a quarter full of fuel in there, and then take it back to them, and then they lift it up and see if they can correct that. Well, okay. If it's shown as half full when it's completely full, it may show as quarter full when it's half full. It may show as empty when it's quarter full. Well, it may show as empty when it's empty. This is where the problem comes in. It may show as quarter full when it's actually quarter full. They can't really do what they're going to do unless it's actually quarter full. How on earth do I know whether the thing is quarter full or not? I haven't got a clue. Because the gauge isn't working. So how the blinking oil am I supposed to know that one? Anyway, the car went in today. They did what I did myself. They revved it up to 4,000 revs for 40 minutes. Kept it revved at 4,000 revs for 40 minutes. Now, I did something similar. I went into a quiet area. I revved it up to 5,500 revs for about half an hour. Now, when they did it, that cleared. That cleared the crap on the filter. And they then said the oil was the issue. So not the fuel, not the diesel, like my friend has said. Not the filter from the diesel, but the filter from the oil was the problem. So I spent all that money, wasted £300. I'm putting the wrong fuel in because I went down to a garage to put fuel in that wasn't really necessary. And even then, there's a garage closer that has that fuel. And the garage closer doesn't have the petrol version of the Supreme. It only has a diesel version. So at that one, I would never have made that mistake. So, oh, God. So that's £300 just thrown away. And now I've got a problem with that thing. So that's got to be dealt with. But anyway, so I got them to replace the oil and the filter. So that cost me in total £110 to deal with that. So those little lights and not replacing the oil earlier has cost me £410 minimum. Probably £450 if you count the more expensive fuel and how much you pay for that. £450 has cost me. So not overly chuffed with that. But there you go. It's done now. Money spent, so this is why I'm always struggling for money. Yeah, so I know now what I need to do if I've got a problem with the car. Instead of asking my friend what do I need to do to fix it, take it down to this garage. They charge you £35 to find out the exact problem. So, yeah. I never did that in the past because, well, they put that machine on that tells you. I've got a cheaper version of that machine that told me it was the FPD, something like that, or PDF, something like that. Anyway, which was sort of right because the chap in there said it's the same thing, but he said it's the oil and the oil filter rather than the PDF filter, which is to do with the fuel. So right, okay. But I always believed it would cost hundreds of pounds to get that machine connected to your car and to do the test, but it's only £35, so that was very good. So yeah, it'd be a case of going down there in future if there's any issues with the car to find out exactly what the issue is. So there can be a more direct attack on what the issue is rather than spend money. Because it's always the case: spend money on this, spend money on that, spend money on this, spend money on that. Try everything. Of course, he's telling me to try everything. It's not his money, my money. Yeah, it's always my money. Oh God, it's annoying. And he has got me that I keep spending my money. Yeah, because anytime there's a problem with a car, he tells me to try 50 different things without actually even bothering to try and figure out what the actual problem is, which means that I run out of money. But before I got a car, he was saying about getting a moped. So he got a banged up moped, needed work on it and needed parts. He got me to pay for the parts and he's still got the moped. I told him to sell it. I said, sell it and then we share the profits because I've spent money on it, so has he. He won't do it. He doesn't want to sell stuff. So I spent, that's probably only about £60 on this moped. But it's still £60 that I've spent just thrown away again. I mean, the amount of money that I've thrown away over the years is just ridiculous. Crazy. When you think about it, absolutely insane. The waste. Anyway, so car is hopefully now sorted. There's no warning lights. That's good. New oil has been replaced. That's good. So that will hopefully sort that situation out. And I now know what to do because they had it going for 40 minutes. I did it for about 25 minutes, 30 minutes. I should have done it for another 10 minutes and that would probably have sorted it. Don't know. I know what to try next time if it's the same thing. So there you go. Anyway, next topic. So car first, and now this topic. I've covered this in a few as well. This topic is don't trust authorities. I've heard people say, the authorities above you are put there by God. If they were, you could trust them, right? They're not. You can't trust them. The amount of people worldwide who are in prison for things they didn't do is going to be quite astounding. It is going to be amazing to discover that number. I mean, it would be horrendous. 2, 3, 4 million people in prison for things they didn't do. And that's discounting communist countries. Take them out of it. Take democratic countries only, where they've got proper police forces that are apparently accountable. Only look at those, and you've probably still got 2, 3 million people who are in prison for things they didn't do. And there's other people that are in prison for things, and yet they've done a lot more things that were just waived because this is another trick that the police do. It's annoying. You have, say, 25 burglaries in a town that are unsolved, and then the police pick up a burglar, and they say to this burglar, "We will speak to the prosecution on your behalf if you take these offences upon you." Yeah. We believe you did them. Now, if you don't take them upon you, we've got to be hard on you. We've got to ask the prosecution to be hard on you because we believe you did all those, even though they didn't. The police don't believe that person did all those at all. They have no clue who did those. But they've got them on their books. These crimes are unsolved. And so the trick is plant them on somebody. Say you're going to speak to the prosecution. And all the police do is say to the prosecution, "Oh, by the way, all those crimes that weren't solved, we put on this person." So, don't go hard on them over those. Because obviously the next person they want to then take that sort of stuff on them, they won't do it if they know that in the past the police have lied and then the prosecution have gone hard on people. The police force is a con. Absolute con. They haven't got a clue what they're doing and they don't detect. Detectives are absolutely useless. They don't bother to detect. Most of them don't. Most of them are really incredibly blinking lazy. That's why if there's a big case, that's why the press always get the names of the suspects. Right? Always get the names of the suspects. Who's giving the names to the press? The police are. The police are giving the names to the press because of the fact the police want the public to do their work for them. They want the public to phone in with stories about this person so they can help to prosecute this person. Anyone who's been a victim of this person in the past can phone up and they can use that as a way of prosecuting this person. Now, quite often, the people that they then release to the press are innocent people. But their lives get ruined by the fact the police name this individual as a suspect in this nasty crime. The police could not care less. Now, it's criminal for them to do that, which is why they won't admit doing it. They always say, "Nothing to do with us. We didn't release that information." Well, we don't know how the press got that information. Of course they know how. The police have got the information, right? The only people that know that person is there is the family of the person and the police. Who's going to be telling the press that that person is there being questioned about that particular crime? Only the police. The family of that person is not going to be doing that. They don't want to label their family member with being a murderer, a rapist, or etc., etc., etc. The police do. They want that person labelled. Because now, once that person is labelled, if it goes before a court, that person will never have a chance of a fair trial. There's no way, shape or form that most of the jurors have not been looking at the news. So therefore, of course, they have seen from day one, from that person first going into the being questioned by the police, that that person's name was leaked to the press, that person is a suspect. Now that person is in court being charged. Right? Most people assume that the police wouldn't charge somebody unless there was guilt. But that's a lie. That's a complete lie and a con that the police use to charge people with things that they know are innocent. Yeah, an ex-friend of mine was a doorman, and he was one of the only people in the area that he was in who was capable of doing the damage that was done to two blokes. Two blokes were beaten up really, really badly. So the police come in and spoke to him, and he was questioned by the police. And one of the officers stepped out, and the other officer who was still there said, "We know it wasn't you, but we have no one else." When the other officer came in, they said, "We're charging you with this, but we're going to make sure this goes by magistrate's court. That way you'll get a lighter sentence. So just plead guilty and you get a much, much lighter sentence for it." Of course, this friend said, "No way, shape or form, I didn't do it." So he said, "No, I'm having this done by a Crown Court, not magistrates." The day it went to Crown Court, it was thrown out immediately because the police had no evidence. No evidence whatsoever. They knew they had no evidence. They knew it wasn't him who did it. I had a similar situation. I was held overnight. Then in the morning, I was let go. And when I was let go, they said to me, I wasn't actually in the police cells. I was in the court cells. I was in the court cells because I was supposed to go before the magistrate that morning. And they come and let me out. They said, the police have said they have no evidence against you, so they're letting you go. Then they said, but if you do anything wrong, we're going to hold this against you. Excuse me, how on earth can you hold something against me when you've just said you've got no evidence that I ever did anything wrong? But they held me overnight with no evidence that I'd done anything wrong. That is kidnapping. It's as simple as that, folks. It's kidnapping, and the police do that all the time. They kidnap people. They use torture tactics. You can't trust them. All I've done is, there's an area right by where I am where I take my dogs. It's practical. It doesn't involve going across a busy road. There's a little park, just 2 minutes walk away. Less than that, really. 1 minute, 30 seconds walk away. And so, quite often I used to go there. But there's a care home next to it. And when people would stand at the window watching me playing with dogs, I'd wave, do the nice thing, wave, hello. Then I had to knock at the door. Police said, we need to discuss something with you. We're not arresting you or anything like that, but it's better if you come down to the station so we can clear this up properly. Okay, whatever. So they said the same rubbish. Do you want a lawyer? Yeah, if you want a lawyer, you have to go back in your cell and wait until a lawyer comes. Now I'm thinking, of course, my dogs are left alone at home. I've not had a chance to make sure they do their pee and poo before I get dragged out. So I want to get back to them as soon as possible. So of course they then interview me because I said, "All right, don't worry, I don't need a lawyer. I haven't done anything wrong." So they then say, what it is that there's a care home there who say you've been staring through their window and you've been inviting people out to come stand with you when you're playing with your dogs. So, excuse me? I said, first of all, let's take the accusation of number one. I said, they've got a fence around their property, which the fence is actually adjoined to their property and the field that I play on. Now, that fence is, I would say, around 7 to 8 meters away from the building. I said, I'm playing in the middle of the field. It's quite a big field, sizably. So I'm at least 7 meters away from their fence. So I'm 15 meters at least away from their windows. How can I be staring through their windows at 15 meters away? I said, that's not possible. I said, and one of the women there, I said, I thought she worked there. I said, she used to come out and speak when I was playing with the dogs. So she used to go and, stroke the dogs. She said she'd love to see them. And they said, oh, no, that's not a resident. She said, no, they said, oh, no, that's not someone who works there, it's a resident. I said, well, how am I supposed to know that? I said, I didn't know the person's name. The person didn't even introduce themselves. They just come over. What am I supposed to say? Excuse me, stay away. You stay over there. I'm playing with my dogs. I can't have anyone coming over and being nice to my dogs. Just in case somebody reports it to the police. Utterly ridiculous. Just insane. I mean, that same place reported me to the council because one of my dogs, Riley, I do believe it was, pooed on their garden. But of course, their garden doesn't have a fence around it, right? So I left it there, went home, came back and cleaned it up, right? Because try and clean it up when you've got 5 collies around you, because as soon as you go to ground, they all want to see what you're doing. Right? So either they step in the poo or they cause you to step in the poo. So easier, get them home. I say it's only 2 minutes to my home, to get them home, and then 2 minutes to go back to clean it up. So of course the council then said, "Oh no, you have to pay a fine of £80 for both occasions where your dog pooed in their garden. You didn't clean it up immediately." So anyway, I went, okay. So anyway, did a bit of homework, and I said to the council, I said, okay. I said, according to the law, I said, you got signs around that says you must pick up the dog poo. I said, it doesn't say you must pick it up immediately. I said, now I picked it up. I said, I just didn't pick it up immediately. I said, I did what was practical. I said, had I tried to pick it up immediately, it would have been trodden into the ground. Therefore, there would be no chance of me picking it up and clean up that area. I said, so I dealt with it in the most practical way I could. They said, well, that's not good enough because the law says immediately. Well, it doesn't. I told them, no, it doesn't. I said, if it does, I said, your signs around the area are therefore wrong. I said, am I supposed to go home after seeing your signs and check whether they're accurate? I said, your law only accounts to public ground, not private ground. I said that care home said that was their garden. I said, if it is their garden, then it's private ground, not public ground. Of course, did I ever get a fine from the council? No. They come at me saying they would. They were trying to intimidate me, trying to get me to pay a fine. And they said they would take me to court if I didn't pay it. No, they didn't do anything. Because they knew they didn't have a case. But you get all this, you see. I've used these examples to try and show you that if you allow these organisations, local council, police, even go to the point of probation, social services, any agency that basically is government agency, you cannot trust them in any way, shape or form. You cannot trust that they are going to do the right thing. If a police officer comes to your door to question you, you cannot trust that you've got a good one coming to see you. You may very well have, but you can't assume you have. You could have one of those that's trying to stitch you up for something that they know you didn't do. Another thing that blew my mind that I didn't know, there was two things. I'll share with you two things. If you're a witness to a crime and it's involving a friend of yours, and you can prove your friend didn't do it, and the police ask you for a statement, don't give them a statement. Because if your statement doesn't help their case, they don't have to share your statement with the prosecution. And once you give your statement to the police, you can't then give it to your defence. So I confused it there. Once you give a statement to the police, they don't have to share it with the defence. But once you give a statement to the police, you can't then give a separate statement to the defence because you've already given a statement. So give your statement to the defence, not to the police. You don't have to give a statement to the police at all. Secondly, if you see a police officer being attacked, don't get involved. Don't get involved. Even off duty, don't get involved. Because there have been occasions where police officers off duty have been in a fight. Somebody has tried to help that person and they've hit the person who was attacking the police officer. That police officer has then stood up in court and prosecuted the person who's trying to help them, being part of the prosecution team as a witness that they hit the person that was attacking the police officer. Now, you would have thought there's no way, shape or form a police officer would do that. Yeah. But I was just trying to help you. Crazy. crazy. I mean, as I say, it's mind-blowing that we live in democracies where the police are supposed to be held accountable, and yet, police still use torture today. All things like sleep deprivation that they use, and they're clever with it, where they got someone in the cells, they want to interview them, but they wait until middle of the night. The police are there having coffees, staying awake. They've only come on, those detectives come on late. They've been sleeping all day. So, of course, the suspect hasn't been sleeping all day, because if they've been in the cell, they've been taken out of the cell every hour or so to be interviewed. Then they do the same at night, every hour or so, back in the interview room to be interviewed, questioned, same old questions again, same questions again, same questions again, same questions again. So they'll ask the same questions, same routine of questions, 20 times in a day. That's how they get people to confess to things they didn't do. It's mental torture. And it's common practice with the police. Oh, the police, I mean, it's like they had this after 9/11 where they had more abilities for terrorist issues. And yet, all the time, they were using the supposedly terrorist extra powers in things that had nothing to do with terrorism in any way, shape, or form. They were misusing the law all the time. And the problem is, most people don't understand that. I don't understand it. I really don't. It's like if you're pulled over by the cops and they ask you for your name and address, you don't have to give them anything at all if you're not under arrest. But of course, most people don't understand that. Yeah, they're abusing their power by doing that. Certainly if they tell you have to give them, you don't. Only if you're under arrest do you have to give them. And actually, you don't even have to give them. You give the duty officer your name and address. You don't have to give it to those officers, not in any way, shape, or form. You're not breaking the law by not doing it. You can refuse to comment. The whole way through, from the point where they first speak to you, you've got every right amongst the law to refuse to comment from point one. You do not have to comment at all. Of course, they will tell you differently, some of them, the dodgy ones, and the problem is most are dodgy in some way, because even most coppers don't quite understand the law. So they will misuse the law because they don't really understand it themselves. And because they've got other police officers that are misusing the law as well, then they just get in line with that and they misuse the law. And then you have but a few that are righteous and honourable and good coppers. Yeah, that's what's been on my mind today. I think that'll do for now. I've said everything about to say probation, social services. I'll just say a quick bit about social services. I was in care from the age of 4 to 18, so I know I've been into the social services stuff. I mean, even at the point where recently I made a comment to someone who was actually the principal at a boarding school I was at when I was a kid. And he was the principal there when I was actually kicked out of the school for apparently rupturing a member of staff's stomach, which I didn't do. And I said to this person, I said, it's absolutely disgusting that you as principal never even bothered to ask me what had happened. I said, if that had happened today, that member of staff would have been sacked, may even have gone to prison. I said, because nowadays, a child says anything against a member of staff, that child is believed. I said, in those days, a staff member says anything about a kid, and the staff member was disbelieved. I said, neither of those things are appropriate. It's not appropriate to believe all kids, not appropriate to believe all members of staff. But that's what it was there. I mean, this member of staff, he knew something, and he shared it amongst all the other kids. My auntie and uncle had been telling me for years that I'd go and live with them. Yeah, my uncle was building a house, and apparently there was a room there for me. I mean, I'd actually gone to live with them when I was 11, only for a year. And they told me that I was put back into care because no school in the area would accept me. So I missed so much of my education. This chap then said, in front of all the kids, that my auntie and uncle put me back into care at that time, that they didn't want me. They've been lying for years to me that they didn't want me, but they told social services years ago they didn't want me. Now, of course, I got annoyed. I was 14, I think, but I was skinny. I was small. I mean, even now I'm only 5'7", so I wasn't very big. And I was skinny at the time. I was only 14. I wasn't, a big lad. I did an awful lot of sport, so I was fit, but I wasn't muscular. And I hit him in the stomach. He was back to work within a day. I don't even think he actually had any time off work. He wasn't bowled over on the floor in agony. That's a certainty. But he claimed that I'd hurt him. My auntie had told me that he claimed that I'd ruptured his stomach. Yeah. Unbelievable. That member of staff was called John Diamond. And it was at the Cotswold Community Boarding School in Wiltshire. Lovely place. I mean, the principal would then come back to me. He said, I'm sorry that things there were not enjoyable. And I said, look, there were some nice things there. There were some nice people there. Some of the staff were nice. The area was nice. Because it was, especially in the winter. Oh, it was great fun. That was lovely. But anyway, what I was talking about social services. Social services in the 60s, 70s, early 80s were taking kids away from families when they shouldn't do. When there was no risk really to the kids at all. Staying at home. If a kid had a bad day at school, that's it. Social services swarmed in, took the kids away. They got in trouble for that. So then they went in the opposite direction, completely the opposite direction, where they wouldn't even take a child away from parents who were dangerous. And many a kid got killed by the parents because social services didn't act. Because, of course, they got in trouble. So because they got into trouble, they said, right, we're not going to take a kid away from parents anymore. I mean, social services are like a baby. You tell them off, they throw a little paddy, and that's the way they've always behaved. And so, as I say, if you're a parent and social services come near, don't trust them. You can't. You can't trust them in any way, shape or form. You really can't. They've not got your best interest. They've got their best interest. It's the same differences in whatever country you're in, their version. You're going to have some good people from social services, but generally speaking, you can't trust them. You got to be careful. Don't be yourself, because quite often they're looking to snap. They're looking to snap you. Don't give them an opportunity to do so, because it's not a good thing to do. Anyhow, that'll do for now, folks. It's been a bit of a rant. But all things, well, with some nice bits in there as well. I always tend to diverge into bits and then find my way back, that's been me. As I say, a friend said about the videos, and I said, look, it's me talking. So there's no conversation happening. Conversation needs two people. So it's me talking. I'm going to go on a bit sometimes. And When I do apologise. That's not the idea of the videos. I try and speak about things to try and help people in some way. So my view on the authorities and whether you should trust them would be different to someone else's. I'm not saying with regards to the authorities that you can't trust any of them at all. What I am saying is that you can't tell the wrong ones from the right ones. I've said this in other videos, so I'm not saying anything I haven't said before. But that's the problem. You can't tell. It's the same as saying from the position of a darker skinned person that you're not saying all white people or pinkish people are racist. It's just they don't wear a badge. So in certain areas where racism is rife, you've got to assume that maybe this person who's got pinker skin could be a bit racist. Doesn't mean they are, but you assume they are to begin with. And then let them prove you wrong. I mean, that's not unfair. It really isn't. I mean, people have got to be understanding. Like, police have got to be understanding. If you don't trust them because they're dodgy police, they are responsible for that themselves. Because when police cover up for the dodgy ones, when they don't do everything they can to get rid of the bad coppers, the bad police officers, then it's their fault. If you look at them as if they're all scum and they don't like it, then just speak to them and say, sorry, you deal with the scum element in the police force, and then we won't look at you as if you're all scum. Because if you don't wear badges to say, I'm a scum cop, no person wears a badge saying, I'm a good cop. Yeah, I don't bully people. I don't try and intimidate people into confessing. I don't try and torture people. I don't try and hold people against, for no reason at all. I don't do those things. Whereas another one wears a badge saying, I do all this stuff, don't trust me. It doesn't work that way, does it? So you've got to realise that, you don't want to find yourself in court where you've just been found guilty of something you didn't do because you thought that you might have good coppers interviewing you because you trusted them. You trusted that they wouldn't push this agenda because they would realise, as you do, that you are innocent. You better realise before then that you can't trust them. If a copper says to you, do you want to speak to a lawyer? Straight away, yes. Anything they ask you after that, no comment. Don't even have a conversation with them. Any at all. Not any. They ask you want to speak to a lawyer? Yes. You do. Because you can't trust them. You can't necessarily even trust your lawyers. Because, again, I spoke to you about lawyers recently. About the fact that you have different levels of lawyers. And obviously the little lawyers aren't going to try and take on the big ones. And if they do, they're not going to win. It's a very, 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 very rare thing that a little lawyer takes on the big guys and actually wins or gets anywhere near winning. It's not just a case of the education levels are often different. What they have available to them, the resources, is massively different. It's like the lawyer I've got. If that person, in for 1 second, understood that it's his job to actually represent his client, he's not supposed to be friendly with the insurance agency. He's not supposed to be friendly with the GP who's doing the report. He's not supposed to be friendly with all that. He's supposed to be going for the jugular, getting the best deal he can possibly get for his client. That's his job. As soon as he understands that, he'll be a far better lawyer. Anyway, that'll do for now. You take care. God bless, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.